U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken wrapped up his third visit to the region in recent weeks. He spoke to reporters in Dubai about what the U.S. is aiming for as the second phase of Israel's ground operation gets underway and why the ceasefire crumbled.
During this visit, I was focused on a few things. Trying to see what we can do to keep getting hostages out of Gaza and out of the hands of Hamas. Looking at how we can both sustain and increase the humanitarian assistance that's getting to people in Gaza, and also talking about the way forward and Israel's efforts to make sure that Hamas never again has the ability to do what it did on October 7th. I made clear that after the pause, it was imperative that Israel put in place clear protections for civilians and for sustaining humanitarian assistance going forward. It's also important to understand why the pause came to an end. It came to an end because of Hamas. Hamas reneged on commitments it made. In fact, even before the pause came to an end, it committed an atrocious terrorist attack in Jerusalem, killing 3 people, wounding others, including Americans. It began firing rockets before the pause had ended, and as I said, it reneged on the commitments it made in terms of releasing certain hostages.
Joining us live now from Washington is France 24's correspondent Fraser Jackson. Fraser, we just heard Antony Blinken there, the U.S. Secretary of State, talking about the U.S. And this conflict. What is Washington aiming for?
Well, the U.S. is once again showing Israel that it has its back, but is also piling on the pressure behind the scenes to make sure that the level of destruction that was seen in northern Gaza isn't repeated as this conflict moves further south. Israel, we know, dropped leaflets on Friday showing a map that had divided the whole territory of the Gaza Strip into hundreds of areas, these evacuation zones that they were calling them, and dropped leaflets with QR codes that Palestinians there could scan to see this map to know when they would have to evacuate. But of course, a lot of the internet infrastructure in Gaza has been destroyed or damaged because of the ongoing fighting. So whether that is effective remains to be seen. Now, like I said, he made sure that the devastation in the north isn't repeated in the south, because as we know, millions of people have been displaced by this conflict, and a lot of them have headed south to try to get away from the conflict. Now, the pressure on Netanyahu, however, could work. We don't know yet, because we're still waiting to find out whether his response will be a full-throated response, and this uptick in violence will start once again. We know that Netanyahu has vowed that Hamas will be crushed once this truce was over. The US, we're told, disappointed that the truce is over and saying that efforts to revive it are continuing. There was a senior administration official traveling with Antony Blinken as he left Israel who said that discussions were continuing and that a truce could be re-implemented as soon as this Friday or this weekend. Now, of course, that agreement is 1 hostage released for every 3 Palestinians released by Israelis. And of course, 10 hostages released equals 1 day extension in the pause. Now, Hamas says that it doesn't have enough women and children to be able to fulfill that agreement and actually try to put forward some men for extraction. But Israel doesn't believe Hamas and says that it does think that there are still women and children who could still be getting out. We know there's at least 1 American citizen who is thought to still be held in that group that originally would have been coming out, that 50. So the bombing now has once again started, and Qatar said, who is mediating the efforts between Israel and Hamas, that the bombing complicates mediation efforts as it tries to get this truce back on track.
Fraser Jackson reporting live there from Washington. Thank you so much for that latest update.